All right, it's time for We're Live, Pal. Double G here with Andrew Zarian. Andrew, you were telling us off air that there was some really great news in your family today that I think we should shout out. We got to talk about family sometimes. Got to
Yeah,
shout out the
yeah.
good news and put that good stuff out into the universe.
Well, if you listen to my shows, you hear a lot about Uncle Bob. Sometimes he's my parole officer. Sometimes he's my attorney. And I think we spoke about it on Mat Men. He had prostate cancer, and he just got the clean bill of health. So he is all done. He's all good to go. We went to Cipollini's to celebrate in Manhasset. You're from northern Queens or Long Island. You know the place. It was a nice little afternoon we had.
Shout out Uncle Bob. I know you
Yeah.
specifically made sure to get back for this podcast, which we and I'm sure the audience very much appreciate, but happy to hear good news, all that stuff.
Yeah, great news.
So awesome.
Great news.
There was some wrestling over the weekend and also a pretty big Monday Night Raw last night. And I'm kind of interested because you and I, we don't really talk about anything during the week. It's not like we're watching Clash at the Castle and we're shooting notes back and forth at each other. So I literally don't know how you feel about some of this stuff until I talk to you. So this show, I sort of feel like this show is going to be like, Andrew, how do you feel about what happened here? And then we'll just sort of carry on. But the thing that I'm most interested in is the Drew McIntyre finish at Clash at the Castle with him getting screwed by CM Punk and losing, and that audience just going silent at the end of that show. What did you think about that finish, and did you think that was the right thing to do?
I did not feel it was the right thing to do. I did not like the finish. I think, listen, we've done the show for a couple of years now. I have said numerous times how it's so unfortunate how Drew got screwed out of his world title run.
Yeah,
the real one he was supposed to have. Yeah, because of COVID. It was out of his hands, but, it wasn't anybody's fault, but he really got screwed out of there. I thought this would have been built to the perfect opportunity to give him that title because he's so over right now. I mean, way more than he was a year ago, 2 years ago. I think it was a missed opportunity. I didn't want to see Damian lose the title and be a transitional champion, but you got a bigger story to tell here. Obviously, WWE thought that the bigger story is a non-title match. But, I mean, you just burnt the market. Yes. I really feel that way, that they hurt that. I mean, right? You don't go there too often. You go there maybe once or every other year. They had 11,000 people that they sold. I guarantee you it's going to be far difficult to bring those same 11,000 back because now they lost your trust. You want people to go home happy. I think Drew having a title, you could have even done something. He would have dropped. You could have screwed him again. But the crowd at that show wanted to see him win that title. And, we talk about this. WWE's a heel territory. You want a happy moment at the end of the day. That's the reality. Those people, they're not us. They're not analyzing this. They're not the people in our chat room that focus in and they break down, foot movement and body positioning in wrestling matches. These people go there to have a happy moment. And when you leave them without a happy moment, they don't come back. I feel very strongly about this. I think it was a mistake. I spoke to people at WWE that night, and everybody's response is, hey, listen, when Cody lost at WrestleMania, we told you all this was part one of the story. You got to be patient. And that was the same response they gave me. You got to be patient.
They're going to use that one until the end of time, I think.
Oh, it's going to be everything. That's their answer to everything now.
Yeah, every single time they do something. Oh, just remember how
you know what it is
when Cody won.
It's the new card subject to change. Just be patient.
Okay, here's an interesting thing. And I think the reason, because I was wondering what the main WWE fans were thinking. And what happens, and we've seen this time and time and time again, when wrestling is hot, the fans have this built-up trust with the company. They don't feel that the company's doing anything to actively piss them off or to make them feel like they got their hopes up. And so they're going to give them the benefit of the doubt because I saw, and it was funny because these are people who I wouldn't necessarily say are sort of insiders or people who are like us, kind of doing this kind of thing. They're more, I would say, a little bit more of like a general fan, but a general fan who's very knowledgeable and understands the actual business. And their answer was exactly what you said.
Yeah.
That WWE told you, which is you just got to be patient with this story. And it's to some extent, I understand that, but you also have to think about the time and place. And I think the place is a really big thing here, which is in Scotland. Did they, when they booked this building, did they have this finish in mind? I can't imagine they did.
I can't imagine you would book the building with that finish in mind. Yeah.
So something changed.
I don't know, but you know how they are. They change their minds all the time. You've seen them do this where things are set in stone. Dave is a great example of experiencing this over the last, infinite years he's covered professional wrestling. And I mean that in the most respectful way. I know for a fact, Dave has been told things. I have been told some very detailed endings and finishes to storylines. And when it happens, it is the total opposite. But the excuse at that point was, well, the old man got his hands on the book. And he changed it. You don't have that excuse anymore. So when you book a building in the home country of the guy that you are propelling on your television as one of your main acts, and this is an easy home run for you to create that magnitude of star power, and he's going to be in a program with Punk, and that Damian could be in the mix, and you could do something with Damian. Why book it this way? Why do it this way? That to me, I mean, they're trying to tell you the story of, CM Punk. And here's the craziest part, right? Drew McIntyre loses. Fine. But now you have told us that CM Punk is such an idiot that this man does not want the most prized possession in the industry. He just wants to be petty and cost another person the opportunity, even though he knows it's going to be a detriment to him. That makes zero sense to me. And again, I'm thinking wrestling logic, right?
Oh, is it possible that CM Punk is playing off of his AEW reputation as just being this petty bastard? That's his character in WWE.
Maybe. I don't know. I do think they are. I don't see them. I mean, you know what? If you listen to him in the scrum or in the press conference, I'm talking AEW lingo here, different promotion. He came off as that really petty guy.
Mm-hmm.
He said, he goes, I'm not here to make friends. I'm here to make business. And, I don't want it to have the title, whatever he said, And I'm like, that's,
Is he going to drop the name of Netflix management team or Comcast management team now? He can't drop the Zaz anymore because
No, but the Zaz, because the Zaz very much wants this AEW deal done at this point. I'll tell you that. We had a conversation you and I last week over this, and he wants it done. So he's not name dropping CM Punk, and CM Punk's not name dropping Zaslav.
No, not at all. Here's another thing that I wanted to bring up about this very angle, which is, I guess just this idea of CM Punk coming in as a referee, running down the aisle, and they shot this great. Like, you couldn't tell it was Punk until I saw him wearing the Air Jordans. No one wears the Air Jordans less impressively than CM Punk. Like, he turned Air Jordans into just a casual, like, it's like a casual, Payless shoe that he wears it like.
Yo, those are my casual kicks. Don't knock on Punk for that. My Jordans are beat up.
No swag at all with his Jordans.
Yeah.
But the idea that you have to, again, now this is the trust thing that the fans, WWE fans, have with the company. The wackiness of him being able to just grab a referee shirt and run down. And now why is Adam Pearce like, dude, you screwed with our title match? Like, why isn't he mad? That whole thing. Like, it's just when they can enforce the rules when it makes sense for their storyline. But again, this WWE fan base is so into the product that they overlook something like that. Because when I saw the CM Punk thing, I was like, oh, this is like out of the Vince McMahon school of booking, like this kind of
Oh
way
yeah,
to
it
get out
was.
of this finish.
But you got to think about it this way, right? And Hunter has done a tremendous job with his booking philosophy and wrestling with NXT. But at the end of the day, who's the only man that man has learned from to
Yeah.
that extent? It's Vince. Those things are engraved in you. That finish is a. I mean, honestly, I mean that ending was straight out of a Vince McMahon ending. You're in the hometown. You know what it was? I mean, literally, it was British Bulldog dedicating that European title match to that sick child in the hospital.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
he
it was.
lost. And what did Drew do? Drew wrote his wife's name or whatever he did on his arms because his wife was sick. She had emergency surgery. They did the same exact thing. And at the end of the day, that's what it is. That's what they do.
Yeah, so there was another moment we'll talk about here in a little bit on Raw where I was like, oh man, this felt like Vince McMahon booking as well. But let's fast forward a little bit because Raw was a very big deal. I felt like Raw was more newsworthy than the actual pay-per-view or the PLE.
Yeah, big time.
The Wyatt 6. What did you think of the Wyatt 6?
By the way, not the number
here?
6. Not the word 6. SICKS. Yeah, they are a group of adults that are suffering from scarlet fever. They're very ill. They're chronically ill, these people. We spoke about this last week, right? And this was part of the issue I had. Because of the presentation over the last, 8 months or so since Kevin Dunn left, it has been far more sports-centric. In a positive way, injecting the spooky, macabre storyline here. How will that play off on TV? I mean, the crowd ate it up. That live crowd loved it. It's already garnered over 1 million views on YouTube, so obviously there's a tremendous amount of interest. I don't know if it'll possibly work.
I watched it, and I thought, we are trying to do something that has failed over and over again by putting a new coat of paint on it or putting a new characters or new people behind this thing. And I understand why they want to do it. Bray Wyatt, if you watch that documentary on on Peacock, it's an amazing documentary. I would tell folks, if you haven't seen it, it is very much well worth your time to watch it. And as you watch that, one of the people who just compel you the most is Bray's brother. And you root for him. You're like, man, I wish he could get something. I wish he could have his own moment in WWE, as a special thing, so he can prove to himself and he can honor his brother. And I just don't know that this is it. So in a sense, I'm rooting for him specifically. Just, like,
I want it to work, and I'm rooting for everybody in that stable.
Sure, yeah. There's nothing wrong with any of those folks getting, characters, making money, doing something. But at the end of the day, what it feels like is we're trying to make something work that has already been proven to not work, and not work in a giant way, not work so much that you invest all of this money into these characters and then you just drop it. Now, some of it is because, Bray did get ill. So you had to kind of take time off on doing it, but it's just been proven time and time again to not work. Now, how much of that was Bray getting burnt out, Bray getting frustrated, Bray not being able to do exactly what he wanted to do and being told no? It's definitely some of that. But now
it's a lot of it, Garrett. And that Bray story is not a complete story. What his absence for a while, his return, the stop and go. There is, and it's not my place to have that conversation ever publicly, and I think a lot of people know it. What a travesty. And I'm not alluding to anything, and I don't want people to get the wrong idea. And I want people to know that the last couple of years of that run made no sense if you really thought about it, right? This highly paid top character gets fired, gets released from the company. And there were reasons that happened. And I'm not saying it was on the WWE side or Bray. I don't want to allude to that. But you're right. There was the reason why they always went back to it is because Bray was such a just tremendous character, no matter what he played. No matter what character he was representing, even that last ridiculous Fiend stuff he was doing, it didn't get over, but he got over. You know what I mean? It's hard to describe. Like, the gimmick was hokey and ridiculous, but he was so committed to it. And I think they feel that the audience had connected to Bray. And obviously, Bo is a very talented wrestler. He was very much liked in that company for all those years.
He was wasn't he the first NXT champion?
First NXT champion. And then they I think he got banned from the building, right? They threw him in the dumpster or something like that when he left NXT. Bo never really had that shot on the main roster. And I think, is this, you might know better. When Steamboat got hurt, right, in NXT, not Ricky, but Steamboat, when because he was the chosen one at one point, tremendous athlete. They pivoted to Bo in a weird way. Around that time,
I actually don't remember that. The only thing I remember about that is Dave and I interviewed Steve Kern, and Steve Kern said one of the parts of his job that he didn't like is when the office made a decision on the talent. If they were a second generation talent, the dads would all ask him, like, what did the kid do wrong? What was the problem? And he would say, the kid didn't do anything wrong. It was just the choice from the office that they made.
By the way, Rollins was the first NXT champion. And then it was Big E. And then I think it was Bo. And then I think around that time frame. But I think Bo had he could have. Listen, he got stuck with that Drew McIntyre nonsense, right? He got stuck in a dumb gimmick, and Drew left, and he didn't. And that was the big difference in him. I think this is now a great opportunity to see how well he could get something that is difficult over. Will I be so into it? I don't know. I mean, I really, even the worst Bray Wyatt stuff, I was still kind of intrigued by.
When The Fiend debuted, my partner on the Fight Game podcast and I, John LaRocca, we were talking about how if you handled The Fiend with care, he could be sort of an Undertaker-like presence. Pretty hard to beat.
But you have to beat him.
You have to beat him at some point, but still pretty hard to beat. Always kind of, coming back when you don't think he can come back. And then they just went into like Bizarro land with it. Like they just took it so far over the top.
They set him on fire.
Like just went to ridiculous levels, right? Yeah. So, this idea, but the thing that also, to put it into context, you can do the Undertaker when there's almost no other hocus pocus on the show. Like we had the Black Scorpion in WCW, and that hocus pocus was very hokey. But the Undertaker, when you once every few months you turn the lights down, and then once every few months they did something over the top. But he was the only one, from what I remember. On the AEW side, you have House of Black doing it seemingly every time they're on television. There's something going on with the lights and some hocus pocus stuff. And so there's just so much of it. I just don't know how special this can be without it very quickly losing steam. Now we have to wait. We have to wait and see what the plans are. But the thing that I just kept coming back to last night and today when I was just watching this thing and kind of figuring it out is like, there's that quote from Mean Girls, quit trying to make fetch happen. I feel like this is their version of fetch. It really is. It's like we're gonna make this thing happen until if that's all we have left to do on this earth is make this thing work. And kudos to them for, again, the part about putting Bo back into the thing. Like I really love that part. But yeah, they got their work cut out for them, man, because this thing, like day one. Now we'll get to this other piece of it. Day one, they are we to believe that Chad Gable was concussed? That he was
no. Murdered.
Okay,
that's
murder.
a bullet wound. Yeah, he was shot in the head. I mean, was he not?
I don't know. I was looking to see if he was breathing as I was watching him for on screen.
I don't know, man. I mean, he got one right to the dome. He was assassinated, that man. You know what? And you know what? And if he had not announced that he had signed that deal, everybody would be speculating that's how they take him out, right?
Here's where we're about to get at. We're going to quickly switch gears to Chad Gable because, again, I'm very interested in your thoughts on Chad Gable. But to kind of end the Wyatt 6 thing is he day one, they destroyed everything in the back, including somebody who's on their television. So the next step is you got to, okay, what's next? Where do you go next? Who do you murder next? Who do you kill next?
How many people were murdered in the back? It was a bunch of bodies, right? It wasn't just Chad and Braun Strowman.
I couldn't tell what was what. Like, it was like, I was like, is that a person? Is that, a costume? Like, what's going on here? I would have to probably rewatch it again, sort of like the Zapruder film, to go back and forth,
up and to the left, back and to the left.
Yeah, like see if I could magnify certain aspects of the video. So we'll see. I imagine this is not going to be the only time we're going to have this conversation on whether or not it's working. But day one, after all the QR codes and all that stuff, people did seem interested. It was only like a 5-minute thing, though, so I'm not sure if it's going to really affect the television ratings. But you mentioned the YouTube thing, so people were definitely interested in seeing what the spectacle was, and I appreciated the spectacle. I thought it was fantastic production. But then, like, my logical brain comes in and goes, okay, like, where do you go from here?
What if he's like a Frankenstein monster now? All the people that were taken out, they're like zombies now. They're like, ooh, they were like a spooky guy.
Yeah.
Maybe. Yeah, totally. What if they do that? I mean, might as well. You just killed a guy.
All right. Let's move on to Chad Gable because I'm so happy that you mentioned him. At Clash at the Castle, Chad Gable has a really good match with Sami Zayn. He does end up losing the match. There was a little bit of storyline advancement with him and his academy, but he still loses. At the over the weekend, he mentioned that he did re-sign with WWE, so he is under contract and hopefully got a nice raise for all the great work that he has done. And then on Monday Night Raw, he gets put into a match with Braun Strowman.
Yeah.
My immediate thought was, I had two immediate thoughts. One, he must have pissed off somebody because he's about to get steamrolled in this match. And two, I thought, just kind of like what you thought. Oh, he signed the contract, so now they don't really have to take care of him. They had to take care of him while they were re-upping him so that he was comfortable. Yeah. And now the next show, they're not. They're doing the opposite. And so then his team leaves him in like the most, I don't know, anticlimactic way possible.
Yeah.
I was expecting this thing to be, what I expected actually at Clash of the Castles. I thought Otis was going to get pissed off and he was going to swing and Chad was going to move and he was going to hit Sami, and that's how Chad was going to win the title. They did not do that. And they did the breakup on Raw in like the most, I don't know, it just didn't seem important anymore. And so now that leaves, and so here's my second Vince McMahon reference. It very much felt like Vince McMahon booked this whole thing out, and this was like Chad's penance for even thinking that they were going to take care of him.
Yeah. It's funny. Like a year or two ago, I had spoken to somebody that's there still. And I forgot what the story was, but they were very frustrated over something that had happened. And they were just venting to me. And they said something very interesting. They said, in professional wrestling, nobody in the history of wrestling has been able to tell a story that is solid for more than 4 top talent at any given time. It's almost impossible. You can't. The attention and what ends up happening is everybody ends up getting spread too thin because there's only so many different ideas you could have represented playing out on TV every single week, especially when you're doing, 100 and something, TV shows a month, a year. You just run out of ideas. And, there's something to be said about the top guys being booked and then the mid card just being good matches and getting over. I don't necessarily know if I agree with that, but it does say something about their inability, and AEW has the same problem, to focus for long periods of time and getting over talent that's not the chosen one. He was not the chosen one. He just happened to be there and happened to get hot, and his contract ran out. Look at Andrade. They got Andrade, and what is he doing this whole time?
Speed champion, baby.
Speed. He's a speed champion. And this was a guy that left AEW because he was frustrated, right?
Yeah,
he wanted better. He wanted more. He wasn't happy. He goes here, and he's not getting represented on TV the way he should be.
No. So, this is me being very reactive to Monday Night Raw and to Clash of the Castle, and just kind of, trying to put 2 and 2 together to see what's going on, and maybe that the breakup is part of a bigger thing. But it does look like Sammy is moving on to Braun Breaker, which that'll be fantastic because I think Braun has been amazing these last few weeks.
Yeah, Braun with that title is a good idea.
And he should win it at SummerSlam or Money in the. I would actually save it for SummerSlam. It just means more rather than Money in the Bank. But that's something that that's something that I'm going to circle. I'm like, okay, I can't wait for this. I can't wait for him to win the Intercontinental title.
I'm really curious where he will be in 3 years. Because he's, I was a little concerned because he's very impressive at NXT, but coming to the main roster, those main roster nerves kind of get to you. He's better than ever.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, do they turn him into Scott? Just a lunatic? Man, I hope so.
So we did this segment on the Fight Game podcast, which is on F4W, and we talked about Braun Breaker or Trick Williams. If you were to lay some money on who's the bigger star in 5 years, who do you put it on? And I think most people, if you're just looking at presence and character and actual wrestling skill, you would say Braun. Like, he's like the real deal. He's a amazing prospect. He's kind of like, now he's not as good of a wrestler as Kurt Angle, but he's kind of on that trajectory where he's only been in this business for such a short time and he's already as good as he is.
Yeah.
But on the other side of it is someone like Trick Williams, who has the talking piece of it already down. And he just has to get the wrestling up to snuff, up to main event snuff, because not every main event, like look at Roman Reigns. Roman Reigns isn't having 5-star classics inside the ring. What he's doing is he's telling these long stories inside the ring, long selling spots, long heel spots. So Trick Williams himself doesn't have to be, Bryan Danielson inside the ring as a scientific wrestler, right? He doesn't have to be that to be a star. He's already got the rap down. He's got a good part of the character down. He has to up the wrestling. So from the Braun perspective, could he get to that level as a talker? Does he need to get to that level as a talker to be the top guy? I think that's the thing that you kind of wonder about, and that's the thing that you hope they give him more opportunities to do.
Yeah, I agree with you. I hope we see it. There's something special about him. They have a good crop of young talent coming up for sure. Austin Theory's one, Carmelo, Trick Williams, Braun. They have a really nice core group of young guys that they need to now convince on TV are at the same level as, a Randy Orton.
You know what I really like about NXT right now is the women's side. We talked about this. They did that ladder match on the NXT show, which was really bad for the North American Championship. Now, if you take out them trying to memorize spots and not get hurt and people kind of in the wrong place, so there's no place to fall. Take out all that stuff. All 6 women had definitive characters that I think are working. Michin is not a newbie. We know who she is. We know we've seen her around, but she was kind of there to help keep that thing together. And then you have someone like Lola Vice, who wasn't even in that match. Jada Parker, Kalani Jordan, Sol Ruka, and even someone like Roxanne Perez, who is very young. The women's side of WWE is, I think, on the way to just refreshing the entire women's roster on the main roster. And that is something that I'm keeping
now.
But there
has been.
It's just slow, But I just, what I look at, when I think about women's sports, I don't look at WWE. WWE is 100 years behind the times when it comes to this stuff, right? What I look at is college basketball. The WNBA is finally getting some traction. That league has been there for many years, and there have been so many great women players who didn't get their just due, but now there's an opportunity for the WNBA. I think volleyball is probably coming up next as maybe breaking through a little bit into that professional side of things. Like I would keep my eye on volleyball. The Olympics are coming. How many giant women stars are we going to see in the Olympics? And then you look at WWE and how they still position a lot of their women talent, and AEW too. AEW is not, they are not outside of this, and so I feel like wrestling is just behind in this. But there are so many opportunities to where the Ronda Rousey being the top star in the UFC, or maybe the second biggest star in the UFC, and then coming to WWE and being in the top star. Like that, it shouldn't be the only time that happens. Like we should be well on our way to seeing that happen time and time again. And I think we saw some of it with Rhea, right? Rhea was really close to being that. Becky became the top star out of the feud with Ronda. So there's going to be more of that, and I love seeing that right now in NXT. I think they're building something pretty special in NXT.
No, and I think overall in pro wrestling, and some of it is at the bar, and this is no knock at all. The bar was set so freaking low for so long. And not because the talent was not capable, it's just whatever the people that produced the television show wanted to see on TV. And, we've heard the story. Natalya, great example, right? There forever. What was the thing about Natalya that was the complaint? She wrestled like a man. And that was a problem. and she's probably one of the best, one of the greatest that they've ever had in that company. She changed a lot of that. She changed a lot of that perception because of how good she is. She's a heart. And then the revolution happened with the women's wrestling, and you had this, if you really look at it, and I played this game with Rich on the show, and we'll do it here. Who is the big star that was produced straight out of NXT for the men? How many? And how many huge mega stars did they produce for the women's roster from NXT? It is endless on the NXT side. Endless. Becky, Mercedes, Bayley, Saraya, Charlotte, and even now, everybody that's coming up now, every single person, they were all created there to some extent.
Bianca.
On the men's side,
Rhea.
Who is it? Rhea.
Does Roman count?
No, Roman's an FCW guy. Roman was not an NXT guy.
FCW,
I'm not. I'm talking NXT TV specifically. It is still not there. It's really not. And Baron Corbin was that guy. Big E would have been that guy.
Yeah.
Big E half counts really, but he was FCW.
FCW as well.
Same with Seth. Finn Balor doesn't count. Kevin Owens doesn't count. Already established mega stars. If you
Priest
like professional wrestling. Priest doesn't count. Priest had a 20-year career. People don't know. Priest is like 70 years old. He has like
he's a real vampire.
He's a real vampire. That's the real vampire. What a stud too. Great story.
it's a
Great
great
story
point.
with him. Yeah,
And by the way,
you look
what
at
a stud!
emphasis.
What a stud for soldiering through that crazy spot where I'm like, okay, this dude
Impossible to
hyperextended.
work.
I was like, how did this guy hyperextends his knee? At least from what I saw, it looked like he
Yeah.
hyperextended his knee, and then his foot gets tied in the ropes. Like, oh, and then he still did pretty much everything that I'm sure he did. And I know people
Yeah,
think that he was like a
he
great
was
seller.
incredible.
I'm not. I mean, I'm sure some of it was selling. Obviously, some of it was selling, but I think that dude was working hurt on
I
that knee, and just probably like thank the Lord that his knee was just hyperextended and nothing worse.
I got a text from somebody, and he said, "There's no amount of workability to make it look that real that it looked. You know, like it was done so well that they couldn't have worked that. He genuinely got tied up in that rope, and they went ahead with it. You know, and it was a very important time. How about Drew doing the somersault, the swanton in the over the top rope and nearly killing himself?
Well, it was like a shoot leg drop onto the floor was what it turned out to be. I was like, dude, this is like.
Do you know that was my favorite match of the night because it was two big guys beating each other up. I liked it.
I mean, I liked it all the way up until the finish, and then I didn't like it. But
yeah, that's a whole separate story.
All right, so I guess one other thing we need to talk about on Raw, and then we'll have a little AEW discussion here, which is someone came back, and I was very happy to see them. That person is Seth Rollins. You know, when Seth Rollins dominates Monday Night Raw, sometimes he dominates it so much that you're like, oh my God, this guy, take a week off or something. But I feel like he's really, really missed on that show. When Cody was on it, Seth was able to kind of be maybe secondary. But then when Cody moved over to SmackDown, you really felt the loss of Seth on that show. And I think Jey Uso has done a very commendable job kind of being that top babyface. But I'm so happy to see Seth back. And I was watching this promo that he and Priest did. Now, Priest is the champ. But there was this tone in the interview that even though Seth was gone, he was still the top guy. And he was coming back to be the top guy. And Priest, even though he was the champ, he has something to prove in beating Seth to really be the top champion on Raw. I kind of felt that in the promo, but I thought it was weird because Dame is supposed to be the heel and Seth is supposed to be the babyface. But it was like Dame was cutting this this underdog babyface promo, and I was just confused at where they were going, but I thought it was compelling. I really like what Dame's doing, especially I think he can probably slow down his cadence a little bit. Sometimes he talks a little bit too fast, but Seth is money at all that stuff. He's one of the best that they have. But I was very happy to see him. I think he makes that show feel like a bigger show when he's on it. So I'm very much looking forward to this program.
Yeah, he came off as a dumb babyface.
Yeah.
Like a really stupid babyface. Like, hey, I'm the champion. I got everybody gunning for me. I nearly lost my leg yesterday, but I'm going to challenge you because I really want to beat you. What is wrong with you? You know?
It was weird, and I know the crowd reacted big for Seth. Of course they were. He's coming back. They love him. All they want to do is sing the song. You got Michael Cole and Pat McAfee, like two goofballs swaying back and forth to the music. I hate stuff like that, but it is WWE. It is, it is the entertainment side of things. But yeah, so we kind of felt the same way. I was just a little befuddled. It was like, you're the heel, dude. Like, he's supposed to chase you, not the other way around. All right, before we get to the next thing, producer John let us know that we do have a question here. We do have a super chat. What is that super chat? All right, from Eddie. Do you guys think the reason Drew has this I Quit storyline is because his wife just got emergency surgery, as well as holding off the Punk feud? That is a fantastic question. Eddie is Eddie is someone who who asked questions on Observer with Dave and I too. So shout out, Eddie. Thanks for your question. This is an interesting one because when we heard that his wife was having surgery, I immediately asked Dave, I was like, well, it can't be that serious, right? Because he's still doing the match, and not like surgery is not serious. Surgery is serious, but I was just like, it can't be like that big of a thing, or but that big of a worry if he's just going to have the match. But maybe, maybe it's time for him to be able to take. I don't imagine he's going to take that much time off. I know he did the whole quit Twitter thing and stuff. But what did you think about that part of it?
I don't know. I really, to be honest, I hated it until I was told that I should shut the F up and wait. So it kind of changed I was like, all right, if you think it's going to be that good. I wanted him to have his big moment and leading into a match with Punk, this dominant champion that beat Damian Priest.
Yeah.
Tells a bigger story. So, I mean, is it that they don't want to put the title on Punk and Punk is not going to lose? I mean, it could be as simple and stupid as that. But I would imagine everybody involved would understand the importance of doing business the right way, considering how Drew has become an important part of that story. I don't believe
to me, you want to get that
the wife played a part in this. I think this was very well planned out by them.
I'll tell you what, Eddie, if Big Dave does not answer that question in the Observer, then ask it again on Friday when he and I do the show. You don't have to super chat it again, by the way. Just remind me, and I'll ask him on air to see if we have any clear information. But going back to what you just said about that title, the B title, how, like, if you want that title to be over bigger, Punk, Dame, Drew, Seth, Jay, Gunther, they all should be trying to fight for that thing, right? Like, what?
And honestly, I would flip-flop that title. I would flip-flop it.
Why not?
I would have, why not? And then, your payoff could be something really big. You have, Punk wins it from Drew. He loses it to Seth. Seth drops it to Damian. They go back and forth, and all of a sudden, you got some crazy Hell in a Cell or an Elimination Chamber. All the title's on the line, and you make it big. You have opportunities like that. I do like how somebody asked
off the top of the cell,
Rikishi, and into the barn, right?
For that spot, yeah.
Yeah, why not do that? I mean, that's literally what they did. WrestleMania 2000, right? That everybody had touched the belt. There's a couple things. Is if Punk wins it, is he spray painting an X on it?
Yeah.
I hope so.
I think so.
I don't know. I sometimes overthinking is the worst thing you could do. Sometimes the simplest answer is the worst thing. I just don't think what they did was the best ending, especially for Drew.
All right. You have a quick out. So we got about 10 minutes here.
Yes.
Or you have an early out. Sorry. I did want to talk a couple of things AEW, but the first thing, what is this story on the AEW pay-per-views going on to Triller? Did you see this?
Yeah, but not exclusive, right?
Well, I don't know if they're exclusive or not. I don't know where else you can find the archive of them.
Oh, all the archives are going to be on Triller. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're going to be able to buy past pay-per-views. So, I mean, you can get them if you had ordered them through BR and you already had that order. I think you could go back and rewatch them, but I don't let's say someone got into AEW a year after the debut and wanted to go back and watch Double or Nothing 2019. I don't think they could do that, right?
No. Well, the BR app is so weird, and I think that's probably why. I don't think this is an indication of anything bad with Max.
Okay.
I don't believe that it's an indication of that. I think it's just another option until the deal is done.
It would.
I mean, maybe I'm missing something. Maybe my information is outdated. It's possible.
Okay, but here's a question, because I think I mentioned that I have heard a version of this deal not including pay-per-view, which is not what you heard going all the way back to last year, that this Max component is a big part of it. If they put these things on Triller and then you sign this deal with Max, and by September or whatever is when that deal kicks in, do you then have to pull those pay-per-views from Triller? Because why would Max want the exclusivity on the archive if it is out there on Triller? That's kind of an interesting thing.
I don't know. I will ask for sure. I should probably see some people tomorrow, so I'll ask tomorrow. But I don't know. I have no idea. I don't know if I don't believe this is a negative indication of anything. I just think that this is just another avenue for their content to be on until they have a final answer.
Could be negotiating as well with Tony.
It could be
right?
negotiating as well.
Hey,
I don't know how much is it worth it. How many people are going to go purchase, the second Double or Nothing right now?
You might be able to count them on two hands.
Yeah, I don't think it really is an indicator of anything. Now, if they had next day rights on there somehow, I would be, or if the pay-per-view structure was free, all the previous pay-per-views, I would assume something else. But I think since you got to still pay for it, I think it's just another avenue, and it's possibly a rev split, that they're doing to for more revenue. I don't know. I do know we're coming up on that time, right? We got like a month or so in that exclusivity window. And the closer we get to it, I think more things are going to heat up.
What did you think of Mercedes Mone being all over social media last night after the Boston Celtics clinched the championship? She was hanging out with, I don't know, was the New Kids on the Block, Joey McIntyre and Donnie Wahlberg were out there. Maria Menounos, I saw her with. Like, she was out there, man.
She's a star. I thought it was cool, Boss. She was at the game, and it was fun to see. She had the title belt with her. Good move.
Yeah, no, it was cool. That's her town, right? She knows that area. She's from that area. I have a Donnie Wahlberg story.
You have a Donnie Wahlberg story?
I do.
I got one too, but I can never repeat it on the air.
So man. So my now suspended indefinitely Facebook account, I still have no idea why.
That you will never get back. You will never get that.
And I'll never even know why it was. Like, no one has ever answered me. I had there was a song. I was just listening to a song, that came up on a shuffle in my library, and it's a New Kids on the Block song. Or no, it was a Marky Mark song. One of the two, whatever. Donnie Wahlberg had a rap on the song. And so I created a Facebook status of like whatever the phony rap that he created was, and I just was shaking my head, Donnie Wahlberg. And I didn't at him or anything. I just posted it on random Facebook. He replied to my Facebook status as Donnie Wahlberg. And he was like, "Oh man, I thought that was a good one." And then the reason why, it was his official account, because on Facebook you could sort of make it the official one. Yeah. And then he replied back about that he had written a rap song or he had written the rhymes of Mark Wahlberg's when he was Marky Mark and the Funky Bunch. And so this was always something we had always thought, which is that Marky Mark didn't really write his rhymes. It was actually Donnie Wahlberg writing Marky Mark's rhymes for that album.
I always knew Donnie was the star.
So then he said something to the effect of, "Oh yeah, I wrote this. I thought this thing for Mark." And so I was like, "Aha, you just admitted that you were writing Mark Wahlberg's rhymes when he was Marky Mark and the Funky Bunch." But yeah, he just vanity searched himself for something and found
great.
Maybe
someone sent it to him.
They're like, "Oh, you're getting dissed hard for this 30-year-old rhyme that you created." I just thought that was funny.
Interestingly enough, Maria Menounos' husband is Mercedes' agent.
Oh, okay. There's
so that's most likely why, and I'm sure maybe Mark. I don't know if Donnie was involved. He was. represented
You
by him,
know,
but I do know that Kevin represents Mercedes.
yeah. We're at the end here, so I'll just bring in a little bit of basketball talk. I'm a giant NBA fan. Obviously, I do a podcast on the Warriors with my son, but I did, do we need to see the Celtics win again? Like they've won the most NBA titles in the history of the NBA. I don't care how long it's been since they won. I was hoping not that I thought Dallas was going to win, but just like enough. Boston's had enough championships in their lifetime with the Patriots and the Bruins and the Celtics.
Listen, I thought the Knicks had a chance. I thought the Knicks had something special going this year.
Hey, I would have loved to see the Knicks win the title over the Celtics. If
I just wanted them to kill the Pacers. That's all I wanted.
I have a rule when I root. If my team, everyone's tired of my team, the Warriors. If my team can't win, the only teams that I root against are the Celtics and the Lakers. Now, if the Celtics and Lakers faced each other, then I would root for the Celtics because the Lakers are, our rival essentially. But if it's the Celtics against anybody else, I root for the other team. So that's the way I do it. But thankfully, now this is good for wrestling. We'll wrap it up for wrestling. No more NBA. So we don't have to worry about Dynamite or any of these weekend shows going up against the NBA. So hopefully ratings bounce back ever so slightly before college football season and before the NFL come back. So that should be good for the shows. And just in time for, Tony got to work out this deal. Maybe they can get a couple of high 0.2s in the demo and maybe in the 800,000s as they're trying to dot the I and cross the T's on this TV deal here. So, all right. Before we get out of here,
yes, sir.
Do you have a prediction? If I said Andrew, what is the date that AEW signs their TV deal? Or just give me like the month that you think it's going to happen or the window. Do you think it's going to be sooner, like in the next few weeks, or do you think we're going all the way to September?
I don't think we're going to go all the way to September. I mean, I hope not, but I'm a Can you ask me that question next Tuesday?
All right, I will.
Can we do that? And I will have a far better answer for you.
Yes. You know what? We may have a guest as well next week.
Oh, who? Anybody?
My buddy JD Oliva, who does a show for the Voices of Wrestling Network.
Cool.
And he used to be on Fight Game with me. He wrote a book. He wrote a novel about a professional wrestling environment. Like he's created his own professional wrestling universe. He wanted to come on the show. I told him that we will bring him on. We're live, pal. We support the content creators. So I believe, I don't know if it's 100%. I'll have to remind him, but I think we're going to have a guest next week so we can talk about his book, which is entitled Gaijin. And it's about a guy who wrestles in the U.S. under a mask, and he has to go wrestle in Japan. But he's also doing some stuff on the down low that could probably get him in a lot of trouble. So nice little. The book is great. I've gotten through about half of it. So by next week when we bring him on, I'll have finished the rest of it. But he's also got great takes on wrestling and such as well. So we can talk to him about just about anything. All right. For Andrew, I am Double G. We will see you next week. Peace out.